Welcome back to another episode of the Office Hours Podcast with Professor Brad Perkins. Today, I have a couple of our construction engineering students in here with me. And normally, our topics are fairly lighthearted, or they're about industry, or they're about the mechanical world, or as the last one, Jenny Baker was in here to talk her side about electrical. But today, we kind of have kind of a heavy topic. And what I wanted to do is talk about something that I think affects our students, but also the industry, construction as a whole. Because one thing that I've noticed, whether we're talking at conferences, at seminars, things that continue to come up is mental health and the construction industry. And if you're in the industry and you're listening to this, I don't even have to explain to you why it's an issue. I mean, it is. If you look at mental health in the construction industry, our industry is far more likely to experience depression and suicides and anxieties and all these things. And so it's already kind of on my radar as a topic. And then I got some statistics here as a faculty member here. Once a year we get someone from the university coming in and having a seminar on ISU student well-being. And this last semester, when they hit us with the numbers, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, these are concerning. I remember looking at them, I'm like, okay, are these true? Are these real? Is this realistic? What's going on here? So I thought, well, instead of talking to a bunch of other faculty members and people my age about it, I thought maybe I could find a couple of students to come in here and talk with me. So I've invited some of my former podcast guests, both as students that have been here before, if they would come in and have the conversation with me, and I am sure glad that they did. So with this in mind, if as you're watching this, just know we might laugh and we might joke around a little bit on here because I always like to, but this is a serious topic. And we are going to approach it with seriousness, and we're going to approach it as if it's like, okay, are there problems? First, we have to even admit that there are problems. And then it's like, okay, what to do about it? Not that we're going to be able to solve all the world's problems on a podcast, which obviously, should you need actual psychological advice, please do not get your help from a podcast. Definitely not from an engineer. Okay. With that being said, I have been around a day or two. I have raised a few kids along the way, and I think I've learned a thing or two, especially from teaching for these last 20 years. And so I want to talk about mental health and students and, what does it take to get through our construction engineering program? And since I have two of our outgoing construction engineering female students here in the room, I have asked for their perspective on what it takes, because our problem not just at Iowa State, but in the industry, is that we cannot exist long-term if only 50% of the population thinks that construction is a legitimate job. And we have to be able to get more women into the construction industry, more women into engineering. How to do that, I have no idea, but if we can't even talk about the problem, we'll definitely never find a solution to it. So with that in mind, I have a couple of experts on what it takes to be a female student in construction engineering here, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Anna Werner. I'm currently a fourth year studying construction engineering.
Right, and what is your emphasis?
Mechanical emphasis.
Mechanical emphasis.
The correct one.
The correct one. Thank you. Thank you.
Yikes.
Thank you. Yikes.
Okay.
Yikes says.
Sour note. I'm Sophia Mordini, and I'm a junior in construction engineering. I'm a building emphasis.
Yes, despite my attempts to have her convert to mechanical.
I was so close.
You were so close. I thought, I was there, but that's all right. Thermo. Oh, come on. Come on. Heat transfer. Okay, hold on a second. That cannot be the thing that is stopping you because way more Connie students, even as a percentage, total number, however you want to look at it, more of them fail something in the structural design part, like reinforced concrete design or steel design.
Please don't tell me that.
Oh, you didn't know? Well, see, that's a real thing. That is a real thing.
That's
right?
a problem for future Sophia.
Yeah, problem for future Sophia. All right, well, while future Anna is taking the easy classes that are thermo. Thermo is way easier. Heat and mass transfer way easier. Nobody. I can't even remember.
Are you that
No.
double integral the other day? I didn't like to see that.
All right. So in all honesty, I cannot remember the last time a mechanical emphasis Connie failed thermo or heat and mass transfer. It's probably happened, but I don't remember.
Mhm.
And have you ever heard of a mechanical Connie failing those?
Not well. I've been in college at least. Just the
Exactly,
mechanical
exactly.
I've known.
Sophia, have you ever heard of a Connie failing, one of those structural classes?
I might have heard whispers.
You might have heard whispers,
Might have heard whispers.
whispers and rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it could have happened. I'm
Probably
just
not.
saying. She'll have an easier time than you.
Hey, if I always took the easy route.
Oh, is
You
that
know.
it?
Ah,
Okay,
true.
nah, true. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sorry, I like
fine,
to challenge
fine,
myself.
fine. You like to challenge yourself. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about this challenge. And I think one of the biggest challenges of our day right now, I think, is mental health. Mental health in construction, mental health here at Iowa State, right? So talking a little bit about this ISU student well-being statistics. Okay, I'm going to switch the screen over here to the statistics here, and they were presenting this to us as faculty, and that 22.7% of Iowa State students are screened at risk of suicide. Right? Now, screened at risk. I mean, not saying that everybody's doing it, but at least screened at risk.
Mhm.
Right? Notice, and by screened, what they're saying is, they answered in the affirmative, as at least like, yeah, I've thought about it, And you could easily say, well, yeah, but look at the national reference group, right? Iowa State isn't any different than the rest of the world, And I'm like, okay, but here's what bothers me about that, is that if the national reference, let's say that's all people between the age of 18 and 25. And I don't know if that's the case because I didn't get a lot of backups to these numbers, just the glossy that you see there. All right, but wouldn't you think that, or maybe this is my bias here coming out, as an instructor, but I would think that students going here to Iowa State, since it is a little bit more of a challenge and since it is, a big commitment that they're making in their future, I would have thought that would be significantly lower than the national average. And this is saying it's slightly lower, okay? Here, we'll come back and talk about these individually, so let's just go through all of them. Screened as food insecure, a third. A third, food insecure. Like, I don't have enough money, I'm not sure where, I'm feeling kind of hungry and I don't know what to do about it. All right. We're definitely going to come back to this one. Reported experiencing sexual violence. Not harassment. We're talking sexual violence in the past 12 months. 16.4% of Iowa State students indicated that they did not feel rested due to lack of sleep for 3 or more days out of 7. Almost half. I might contribite to this. I'm not sure. I don't know. Some of my projects.
I got some
What?
words on that one.
Oh, we got some words. I think I'm going to hear about it here. All right. Screened as lonely. 50% of Iowa State students screened as lonely. A quarter screened as having anxiety and emotional or mental difficulties, hurt during their academic performance in at least 3 of the last 4 weeks. Seems like a lot. All right. So with that in mind, okay, let's just talk about these a little bit. Okay, now that I got the stats. Okay. All right, so I'll put it to you. Just in general, what do you think about those numbers? Does that seem they're literally talking about your demographic?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Does that seem reasonable, Sophia, Anna? What do you think?
I mean, if I'm thinking about people that I've had direct interactions with,
Mm-hmm.
and you were to ask me what I thought those statistics should be, I would guess that they would be lower. But I also
Yeah.
think that not everybody talks about everything,
Mm,
and not everybody
point.
shares everything. And so
Right, and you don't expect them to.
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't expect people to.
Yeah. So
And
if-
maybe that's why I thought they should be lower,
Right.
because I wouldn't say nobody. I have had quite a few conversations about mental health being an instructor, so people think, and they should, they could come and talk to me and confide in me. Now, it's always a good idea to get real. If you're feeling some of these things, you should really get serious mental health counseling. But as a first stop, someone, a faculty member that they trust is a pretty good place to stop. In fact, if if other students ever listen to this and you're kind of feeling this way, you go to a faculty member because we can steer you to real professionals. All right, that's a good first place to start. All right, okay, but back to the point. I wouldn't have guessed they were that high. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, is there anything in there in those lists, like anything that stands out to the two of you? With regards to anxiety and depression and that type of thing, because this is mental health in our country is not in a good place, and I think I've seen a decline of it, and if I could, all right now, okay, I'm really going to age myself here, right? But if I could point to this thing and blame it a lot, I think I would.
Hmm.
I don't think the online world and social media has helped at all
Right.
with regards to mental health. And I think it's only made things seriously worse. I don't know. But the two of you grew up in a very different time than I did. Do you ever remember a time when there wasn't cell phones?
I do. I mean, where I didn't have direct interaction with the cell phone, and I guess that's not the same thing because they were still there. But I
Right.
I do remember leading a completely different life when I didn't have a cell phone versus when I did,
Okay.
especially with social media on it.
Yeah.
It goes back to what Anna said. Like, she isn't directly talking to people that have these mental illnesses or struggles, but people are also not posting those.
Mm-hmm.
So they're posting the best parts of their life, the highlights of their days.
Ooh, yeah, the Facebook. I'm doing everything to look good,
Yeah.
but really inside, because it's the pressure that's like, yeah, everybody else looks like they've got it together. I need to make it look like I'm doing well.
Right.
All right.
Mhm.
Uh,
100%. I mean, I grew up without a phone until I was in 6th grade, I think.
Yeah.
And then I had a flip phone for
Yeah, flip phones. Rock the
years.
flip phone.
Yeah.
I miss my
Love a
flip
flip
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
Miss my flip phone.
Bring
Yeah.
them back.
Yeah. But I mean, I had that, and then I had an iPod, which
Yeah.
allowed me to access to social media, but
Yeah.
my parents kind of limited my amount of social media intake.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
Yeah. Until I was in high school, and then they were kind of more like, we trust you to make your own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it kind of went from there. But it definitely doesn't help things.
Okay. All right. Okay, so here's a question. So if social media is social media, and especially in the post-COVID world that we are in, has real interaction been a thing that is more difficult now? Do you think?
Yeah.
I think it is. But Sophia?
I just think that people get used to communicating online, and it's easy to hide behind a screen and
Mm-hmm.
kind of compose your thoughts behind a screen.
Yeah.
I even find myself guilty of that. I'd rather sometimes write everything out so that I don't lose track of what I'm saying, but I don't have as much experience talking face to face with people as I would like.
Mhm.
I know I'm not the worst case of it, but I think that's definitely a real problem.
Well, I think, one thing I have noticed in 241, so now here this fall, for me, I will have been here 20 years, okay, teaching.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know, yikes, yikes, thank you, appreciate that, love that, right, yikes, that's an official yikes, it is.
Good thing we're not here for a grade this time.
No.
Yeah.
I'm retired.
Yeah. But definitely things have changed,
Yeah.
and like group problems in Connie 241 and 352, and both of you are out of those classes. But today, I would say we have a lot more group problems with regards to communication than I would have had,
Mm.
10, let's just go pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more difficulties in group projects.
Oh, yeah.
And is this because, people are having a hard time interacting on a real personal basis? Like, my instructions in 241 are like, nothing replaces you actually being there together in the lab, talking about things and making decisions.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But yet people come to me with like, well, so and so, he's never there, and he always makes excuses as to why he can't be there, and and our communications just just not there, and it's like, okay, I'm just seeing a lot more incidents of group problems with regards to communication, which is especially troubling for the industry that we are going into.
Hmm.
Buildings don't build themselves. Communication is a key thing, and you know what? You look at the people, and I know both of you have been on this podcast before, and maybe I don't know if you've watched any, but if you look at everybody that's here, that's in industry, and the ones hiring, what are they all saying? It's like, oh yeah, good communication skills, good communication skills. I mean, just like harping on it, hoping to find it, and yet running into problems finding people that have it. So I guess the question is if we look at these statistics here, let's go, if I go back down to 50% of Iowa State students being screened as, quote, lonely, is social media making it easier to communicate on the screens and more difficult to communicate in person? And that just isn't filling that human need for interaction.
I think it definitely could. I mean, I think I've got some nieces and nephews, and they have a large tendency to try and go and look for their tablet or look for some source of
Yeah.
entertainment that's not from like human to human interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, they like their own like amount of human to human interaction as well, but I feel like that wasn't that wasn't like an option for me. Like when I was a kid, like I didn't have a tablet to go play.
Yeah.
So like my options were either to go play with one of my parents, drag one of my parents to come play with me, or like find someone in the neighborhood to go play with, or do something to entertain myself. But a screen wasn't really like an option per se.
Okay.
So I think that's possibly a little different.
Well, do you think this is making it harder? Like when they hit Connie 241 and they're like, okay, now we got to like do group stuff, like whether it's the presentation or just get together to design the final project, and that's tough and it's creating a barrier.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of ties back into just like why people go into engineering. I think a lot of people are super left-brained and they just want to do it their way. And I know
That's true. Connie is definitely unique in that respect compared to, because a lot of engineering majors, you can sit kind of in the middle of the class and just do your work and hardly ever interact with other people.
And this is getting really specific, but I know that like for this project, Revit is a single-use platform. Like you can't be live on it, so people almost use that as an excuse. It's like, hey, let me just do this part. You
Let
can
me
do
just
this
do
part.
the Revit. We'll be independent from each other.
And that's just another common misconception. People aren't at the same computer doing the same thing anymore. It seems like you take that, and then that kind of ties into the men versus women tasks. Like, how are you going to delegate that? Who's
going to do what?
Oh,
who's
we'll give the
do
girl
what?
the formating. And
like, is it?
Which is not always the case, but
not
it's
always
just
the
like,
case. But you bring up an interesting question. Because right now, I want to say, we just looked this up just before we started taping here. Anna, you said construction engineering is right about 18% women, which is one of the lowest percentages of any major across the campus. All right, isn't Iowa State slightly more women than men?
I believe
as
so.
a percentage?
I think it's 55-45.
Is it 55-45? Is it that much of a different?
Maybe.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look this up, because when I was a student, that was not the case.
I feel like when I looked last, which was a while ago, it was like 52, 51, 49.
49? Okay.
I think it was very evenly split.
Yeah.
44.9% are women. And so like 55.1% are men.
Wow.
Oh, men's more?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess I wasn't sure that. I know some majors, like if you look at College of Vet Med, it's like, I'm not even sure. I think it's like, 60, 70% women, something like that. But then you look at construction engineering, and we're at 18%. So I guess here's the question, because some of these statistics on anxiety and loneliness and depression and that type of thing made me think, okay, is this something that is especially troubling in our particular major? In other words, do women have a harder time in construction engineering and that it scares them away? Or is that they don't even get there to it's not that it scares them away, it's just they didn't start because they think it would be bad. I don't know. I guess the fundamental question is, do our women students have a different experience than the men students? I have opinions and thoughts as an observer of 20 years, but I wanted to hear yours first.
I would absolutely say that it's more so they don't want to enter the industry versus they get scared away.
Okay.
I do think that they definitely have a different experience.
Okay.
I think it really depends on who you ask, what they.
Well, that's true. I mean, we're always going to. You're right. Okay, and I want to be very clear that we can make generalizations, and that doesn't make it specific to anybody.
And I'm
but
almost,
I think understanding the generalizations could be important.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Okay.
If you ask a guy versus a girl, like
Mhm.
that's just going to be a drastically different answer because, I mean, we'll be sitting in the engineering building and hear, oh yeah, girls get graded way easier than the guys do.
Oh, is that?
Like
Oh
that's
my gosh, I've had this comment
Yeah.
on my reviews for a class. I am not kidding you. I'm going to go over 2 comments, same semester, same class.
Mm-hmm.
I had one comment, I'm assuming came from a female, that said I'm sexist and that I'm harder on women. And then I had another comment, I'm assuming from a guy, that says I take it easier on the girls than the guys, and it's not fair. And I'm reading these, and I'm like, well, damn it, it can't both be true.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a sexist pig and take it easier on the girls. And I'm like, I'm confused as hell. What is going on here? I don't know if those 2 things are compatible, right? And that's only, and that comment, actually, I've had the comment that I take it a little easier on the girls than the guys. I have had that one come up a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've never had the one that I think it was this particular case is that we had one female student that rather than acknowledge maybe some of her own problems, it was easier just to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your fault that I didn't do good and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's the question. Am I different? You've both had me for multiple classes. Am I different teaching the women than the men?
I think
I have
go ahead.
opinions on it.
ahead.
But go ahead. Please hit me.
I feel like in like the general classroom setting, no, I think you approach that all the same, and I think that
Okay.
you have the same expectations for all of your students.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes those can be perceived differently based on, that's honestly on a fully individual student basis. Like I think
Okay.
every student that you have
See there.
perceives
Ah.
you a little bit differently and like perceives the way that you teach and like what you expect a little bit differently.
Oh, I'm sure that's the case. That well, it has to be.
Yeah.
Okay, it does. It does. I mean, experiences are unique to the person,
Mm-hmm.
and the same person can be great with one person and be a jerk to the other.
Mm-hmm.
That is 100% possible.
Mhm.
But I was just wondering, like, is in general, having had you, do you see me, being different with different students?
I think since we do have so many more guys in the class than girls, if
Mhm.
you have a specific relationship with a certain student and that goes across the whole male population, let's say you have specific guy-to-guy relationships with a lot of people in the class, that can be more generalized easier because there's so many men versus women.
Okay.
So if
sure.
you have, like, let's say you have a good relationship with Anna and I, but a bad relationship with like 5 guys in our class, it's gonna seem like you like the girls more because
You're saying people
there's
are
just higher
observing it,
chance,
and
yeah.
this is a common problem.
Mhm.
Is that somebody observes something and they are going to immediately attribute it to something like gender.
Yep.
Like
Mhm.
I had a TA. This has been years and years ago, when Civil was starting up their CE 306 class.
Okay.
They kind of modeled it off of my 241 class, so I taught it. They added this lab to it, this plan reading lab and quantity takeoff. I taught it, and I had some of my better 241 students, like a year or 2 after they took 241, help me as TAs. And so we had like 6 sections. So the whole point was I could not be in every class because they
Mhm.
had them all at the same time. They had 3 at one time and 3 sections at another time. So you'd have 3 sections going on of 40 or 50 students, and I couldn't be everywhere,
Mhm.
So I had
Right.
TAs, a TA for each class. And I do remember one of my female TAs. She said something I will always remember. She's like, we were talking about a particular student in one of the classes, and she's like, I think he's kind of sexist because he always is rude to me and this and that. She was assigning that it was because of her gender, and I said, no, he's a jerk to me too. I'm like, he's just a jerk. And I said his problem is he's just with the class, he just whatever reason doesn't want to do it, because he's going to be a designer and he doesn't see the need to be able to read plans and do quantity takeoffs, because he knows, as a student, obviously know everything that you're going to do in industry.
It's true.
Right, you're right, right. But anyway, I said he's not a sexist, he's a jerk. Now, you happen to be female. So I said, be careful assigning, the fault. And I think as a people, as a country, we do this far too quick.
Yeah.
Far too quick. We assign it as like, well, it's like, well, you're a jerk because you're a Republican, or you're a jerk because you're a Democrat, or whatever, and it's like, it's not because they individually aren't jerks, it's because they belong to some group. And whether that's a gender, it's a race, it's like saying, I could say, yeah, everybody from Missouri is kind of sketchy, and oh, Sophia's like, well, I don't know if you're wrong there, right? I mean, and I can say that growing up on the Iowa side of the Missouri, Iowa border, and I was joking with one of the students just today who's in my office, and he's from Kansas City, which I used to live in that area. And we were joking. I said something about him being from Missouri, and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, it's true, right? But what I'm saying is, I might make that observation, and it's easier to gloss over an entire group, and maybe that happens. But my question, I think, to get back on topic here, is that I'm not talking about perceived differences. Are there real differences in the experience a female student has in Connie than a male student has? And that's my thought-provoking question for the two of you. I don't know if either one of you even want to touch that one, but I mean, I've got observations I think I've made over the years. But
I mean, I would say that there are definitely real differences, and it's not necessarily that we wouldn't want to touch it, but it's just like, where do you begin?
Yeah.
Ooh, there's like so many. It's like, where do you even begin? All right.
Like, what are your observations?
My observations. Okay. I think that there is more pressure now, whether it's external or internal. Let's debate this one. I think there's more pressure to be perfect from that our female students face. Pressure to be perfect, pressure to be at the top of the class, pressure to get everything right, pressure to prove that you belong. Now, I think very frequently, or at least what I've observed, is that pressure is very internalized. That they feel it, the student feels it more than anybody else observing them, whether it's their teammates or their instructors or anyone else. I think they feel pressure to be perfect, and I think a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it may be self-imposed.
I think so. I think you're right. I think it's a combination of external and internal factors, but there's definitely like the external factor of like your whole life leading up to college.
Yeah.
You're taught that an A means that you did enough, and like an A means
okay. So
at least that was kind of how I was raised.
Okay, so you've internalized that so that you're like, A means that's expected. Okay, then that's what I am talking about.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's necessarily what is true. Like, I don't know. Since being in college and since actually thinking about it a little bit more and talking with instructors and seeing how some instructors distribute grades, is that like maybe a B is where the baseline should be. A B is like you did everything that you needed to do. A B is like you did everything that was expected and you did everything that was asked. And an A means that you went above and beyond.
Well, do you see more of your peers that are women struggling with this?
Yes.
Okay, that is my observation, whether that's right or not. But my observation is I think our female students have a lot harder time with accepting the less than perfect standard. right? Sophia, what do you think? Do you think is that a fair statement or
And it is very individual because I am in the same boat as Anna, where like in high school, it's obviously switched after coming to college, but in high school I'd have
right?
like a mental breakdown if I got an A minus, and I mean,
Ooh, I've legit seen this.
yeah,
Yes,
and like
yes. And my observation is that I think this happens more with our female students.
it does, yeah. I mean,
Does?
in my experience directly, and that I
Hmm.
don't know if that's coincidence because
Well, no, that's all we can draw on.
mhm,
You know. I mean, we're not doing studies here. You know, we don't
mhm.
have a database of 1,000 Connie. Well, actually, I do. I have seen 1,000.
Yeah,
I have literally seen 1,000 Connie students cycle through in 20 years.
yeah,
All right. But my observation would be in that limited subset, but it's a pretty big subset. You know, and what I'm saying is these are the things that we should be talking about because if I observe this and then you observe it, we should be having this conversation together where it's like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Anna observes the same thing. Maybe there's something to this.
mhm,
And I don't know if we're ever going to get to the heart of the legitimate, I think, mental health challenge if we don't ever say that like, okay, Sophia, what you observe is it's not just you thinking this.
mhm,
You know, and you know whether and if you have a friend that's struggling with this, it's like we should be able to say, you know what, you're not off the reservation in thinking this. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to be perfect. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
oh, that's okay. I guess
So no,
kinda
you
lost
said
my
you
train
said that would be your observation would be that is true.
mhm,
Our women students feel more pressure to be perfect
mhm.
than
And
maybe our guy students do.
we could then, of course, pose the obvious question of is that because we feel like we have to earn our keep in the industry
Yep.
after looking at the 18% statistic? Um, yeah, there's not as many girls as there are guys, so we have to make sure that we're worthy of being in the major because we're
Ooh,
few and
see,
far between.
there's something you don't hear our male students saying much. You know, it's like, am I worthy to be here? I mean, and I'm not saying they don't think it, and I'm sure
Mhm,
there are those that do, because there is always this pressure. It's like, oh man, am I a fraud? Am I really cut out for this? Can I really get through it all? I mean, even if I pass this class, is it even possible to get all the way through? I think having that question of, am I good enough to get through this is natural.
mhm,
I think the slight difference is maybe our female students tend to internalize that more and turn it into anxiety.
yeah,
But that's also could just be because there's so many fewer of them.
mhm,
You know, it's easy to think everybody's looking at you if there's something different than about you.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the question posed, right? So I'm sorry. Go back to your observation, Sophia. You think this is a real thing?
yeah. I think it's real. It just gets hard because is that something that I struggle with because I want to do well in school and because I have struggled with perfectionism, or is it because I'm a girl? Like where's the line of
Ooh, good
like
question.
what affects what? Is it just because I want to be a good student, or like what parts of my struggles of my maybe anxiety or stress
Right.
comes from my gender versus just wanting to be a good student? So it's like,
Good point.
where does that?
Just like with my observation on, the guy's a jerk because he's a jerk, not
Yeah.
because she's a woman. Your question is, do I have
Mhm.
anxiety because, this is tough,
Yeah, and I definitely
you
not
know?
like to discount that women and men are treated differently in the industry. I think that's very true. But it just gets to the
How
point
would you say they're treated differently?
where I don't know. I guess there's quite a few different instances, but for me, I can just tell that even in my internship, not even
Mm.
negative, but the men speak to you differently, or they ask you to do different tasks, they delegate different things to different people.
Okay.
It could be as simple as like, um, do you want to drive the truck? Well, I'm gonna drive the truck because I'm a man, and you're gonna sit in the passenger seat, or you're gonna man the
Oh, okay.
plant. Like it could just be something as simple as that. Because that happened to me. I mean, I was certified to drive the vehicles, but it was never the case.
Never the case, huh?
It could be simple as that, or it could be negative too. That's just not in my case yet, but I'm not in the industry yet, so I know.
Well, yeah, Anna.
I think one of the things that I've noticed and that I've kind of experienced is that the language that people talk to you with is different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that also could be attributed to like just the fact that I was an intern last summer, but
Well, that's true. I think there's a couple things there. Is that it takes time among anyone, to build trust,
definitely,
and the intern doesn't get as much,
definitely.
because you're only here for, you gotta understand,
Yeah.
someone in a long career, the whole intern time frame is like a breath to them. It's like a
Yeah.
couple minutes, feels like.
But the word cute was used as an adjective to
Ooh,
describe
you,
me, which I
I
don't.
don't know if I've ever had that adjective
See,
used
I'm
to
not
describe
sure.
me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be
Yeah.
like just an intern thing.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean by saying it's not necessarily, it doesn't seem negative,
Yeah.
but it
It's
is
like
Now-
not something
condescending.
that would be used like.
Well,
no
now,
one
hold
would-
on. I will say there's been a couple times, like, I've been doing, capstone reviews,
Uh-huh.
and there's all guys this particular semester.
Mhm.
There's been a couple times I've asked them a question and they've given me a less than ideal answer, and I'm like, oh, that's cute.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, but the point is, it wasn't meant in a nice way.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. All right. That's fair. All right.
You want to elaborate on that, or like, what do you mean?
Me?
Yeah, the language. Or,
Yeah. Language.
I mean, I think that like just the way that people are described is like
Mhm.
sometimes can be different based on like who's describing them and who they're describing. Like
Ah.
I think I see more commonly when men are described, they are not described for their appearances or how like their appearances and the way they present themselves is not always the first matter of discussion when like
Oh.
they're described to someone else. But I
Okay.
think that more
Well, that's
commonly
that's
than
funny
not-
because in 241, one of the things I harp on the guys more than the women is appearance.
Really?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
for their presentation.
Oh, yeah, for their presentation. I
That
mean,
makes
they're probably,
sense.
I'm like, hey, you didn't shave today,
Yeah.
or some of their, frankly, some of their professional attire and is horridly lacking.
less than
Right, but
ideal.
I'll be honest. Have you ever heard me make a comment? I have, but rarely would I comment on the attire of one of our female students.
and maybe that goes back into your feedback of, oh, he's favoriting the
Favoritism, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Mm.
Maybe it is. But
and what?
but
How much of that is coincidence? How much of the girls just know to dress better?
oh,
Versus, you know,
okay. Oh, straight up truth.
Yeah.
Straight up. I mean, come on. You guys have been in the 241. I mean, come on. Some of the choices are like, really,
Interesting.
really, you pulled this shirt out of what rumpled clothes? Out of what bottom luggage of yours?
I did that.
Yeah. What did I tell you to iron your shirt? Is
Absolutely not. No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Got no critiques.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So keep going, Anna. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think, and maybe professional attire is not a great one in college because I think once you're on the job site and in the industry,
Yeah.
at least like as an intern, the dress code's pretty laid out and like you kind of know what to wear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I don't know, I've just heard like women be described more for their appearances more often than men are described.
okay.
Like I feel like adjectives such as their like work ethic and their
Mm.
intelligence are going to come earlier in the like list of adjectives to describe someone like as a man or like as
okay.
a male rather than a woman or a female.
Okay. All right.
And that's not always true.
Oh
right?
no. Hey,
But-
like I said, we're not
Yeah.
talking in absolutes.
Yeah.
But it is important. So that the big question is now. So I told you I would give my opinion on this,
Mhm.
and as both an instructor and as a dad of 5 kids,
Mhm.
3 boys, 2 girls, this is going to be horribly confrontational and just cutting edge, asking for problems. But I am going to say that there is a difference between men and women.
Mhm.
Yeah, there, I said it. I know. A lot of the world doesn't want to admit this, but I do believe there is a difference. And what I'm saying is with my girls, like watching them grow up, they're very, very different. And of course, we're only talking about a subset of 5 kids.
Mhm.
Okay, but my opinion is that I think that boys and girls, as they're growing, they need different things at different times. All right. And like my little kids, I see my sons responding better. I think my sons responded better to challenge, and my girls responded better to encouragement. I'm not saying that girls don't need challenged. and
Mhm.
boys don't need encouragement.
Mhm.
From coaching basketball and coaching soccer, doing, Sunday school stuff, I've just noticed that like on a soccer field, I can get a whole lot more out of, like a boy at that, soccer field,
Mhm.
challenging them. I can get a whole lot more out of one of the, girls, encouraging them.
Mhm.
So, and I try to do both, but I just think the percentage that maybe they need is different. I don't
Yeah.
know. Once again, this is only anecdotal observations,
Mhm.
but I wonder, do you think that carries through to college? Do the two genders need different things to succeed well? Is it a different environment? Are we not doing enough to have our female students succeed well or encourage them to come in to the major? You were saying here as we were, the warm up, it's like, yeah, I'm going to construction. Oh my God, why did you do that?
Mhm.
That was the response you got.
Mhm.
That's not a positive response,
Right.
you know?
And I mean, I'd like some encouragement,
Yeah.
but I guess it's separate from am I a woman going into construction engineering? Because yeah, when I was coming in, everybody questioned that. They wondered why I was doing that, but it was
Right,
not
and a guy wouldn't get that same questioning,
right. I was gonna say it's not
you
because
know?
I'm doing construction engineering. It's because I'm. Why are you doing construction engineering as a girl? That's really random. I got that response quite a bit. It's just that's a random major for you to choose, and it's like why?
You're like, well, why? I have family in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I mean, and they didn't know that, but it doesn't
Right,
matter.
right. But you're right. It doesn't matter. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. It's like, and that's what I'm talking about. If we're gonna like as a bigger picture, break that particular attitude, and that particular attitude is that, you know, Sophia says, "I'm going into construction engineering," and someone's first response is, "Oh my God, why?
Mm-hmm.
What a crazy thing for you to go into." If you would have said vet med, nobody would have said, "Oh my God, why?"
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, well, yeah, it's predominantly female students in vet med, right?
And it's unfortunate that sometimes that stems from like older generations because I
Oh,
was
it
talking
does.
about
It
how
does.
like my friends, their parents don't even want them to go in as girls because it's like, oh, are you
Right.
sure you can handle that? It's like, oh,
Which
maybe I'm not sure.
which I
Mhm.
find absolutely fascinating because as I watch, class after class after class of our female students graduate, I can tell you there's plenty of opportunity for female students in our in our
Mhm.
industry. I mean, if you want to look at the salaries and options and positions, it's there's a lot of opportunity. But look at our department, right? If you would look at and these are the types of things that we never actually say, but we just observe as faculty. If you look at our peer mentors, officers of student orgs, and graders, if you just looked at that subset of Connie, you'd think that we were 50-50 men and women,
Mhm. Absolutely.
wouldn't you?
Probably
Yeah.
pretty close.
Right? You would think so.
You see a lot of the girls going for the leadership positions,
A
or at
lot of
least
the
I
girls,
do.
yeah. Well, like, yeah, and the faculty, like soliciting it, like, "Hey, Anna, you want to grade for me?" Which you do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right. I mean, I bet if you look at my TAs and graders, I am probably really close to 50-50,
Probably.
even though there's a much smaller pool of our female students to draw from.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What explains that? I'm asking the two of you because I've seen the observation and I'm not sure I have a great answer for it.
I think a little part of it is the desire to perform highly and to
Okay. There's that I got to prove I belong thing.
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
And I think another part of it too is that like it gives you a little bit of a sense of belonging in the major.
Oh,
If
okay.
like you have
You're-
some specific title or some specific
Ah.
something besides just as a
Student.
student.
Okay. All right. That may be fair.
Yeah, I'd agree with the sense of belonging. It gives you more so a community.
Mhm.
Like if you're on an exec board, you have that group of people that are holding your back. You have
Mhm.
people that you can turn to, and it's almost like a bonding experience perpetually because you have to be around those people more often, and you have something in common. And that gives you that sense of belonging that you might not have had when you originally
Hmm.
told someone you were doing Connie, and they're like, "Oh, why?" I mean, you shouldn't be.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So here's a question: is that what is driving our? Is this more of a once again, generalization, is that sense of belonging and community and that type of thing, is that more important for our female students than our guys?
In a lot of
In
cases.
in construction,
Yeah, in our major. In our major. That's the only one I'm interested in, you
I would
know.
say absolutely.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
since the percentage is so small,
Yeah.
it's like you honestly in construction or in engineering, if you
Yeah.
want to go more broad,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a unspoken sense of community
Yeah.
between female engineers. Like
Okay.
there's,
All
I
right.
remember my first day of coming to Iowa State and being an engineering student, going into my first engineering class.
Yeah.
There was 5 women and
Yeah.
25 men, and
Yeah.
I got to class probably a couple minutes early, so there was a couple stragglers after me, but there was one row of women, and they had all.
Yeah, because all of you sit in the front in my 352 class.
It was all
right?
an-
You sit next to you. You
Yeah.
sit. Yeah. You're like, yep, guilty.
It was
Both
all
sides.
like an unspoken
Right.
rule of like, this is our community. Like I knew nobody in the class. I
And
knew
you
zero
and you're like,
people.
I'm still going there.
And I was like, there was 2 open seats in that row and a
Mm.
couple open seats on the other side of the room that were all men, and I was like, I will be sitting in the row with the women.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting. I did last year at my internship, I did the MBI courses, and one of them we were talking about like mental health or something.
Right.
And we walked in, and it was the first day everybody sat at a table. The first thing that the speaker said is, look around the room, and we did. I was at a table of, a couple different people. Like I was at a table of guys just because they went to Iowa State, but right next to me was a table of only girls, and then every
Yep.
single other table had only guys at it. And he said, this is unacceptable, like scramble yourselves. And then immediately the chatter ceased. Like nobody talked anymore because they had that sense of community. This is my
Yes.
my gender is in common or something, but like the girls just felt comfortable with the girls, the guys felt comfortable with the guys.
Okay.
And then again, like when we scrambled, nobody talked.
Here's a question. And this is something I have noticed a lot in the 20 years I've taught here. Is society as a whole seems like we are, and I don't mean one gender or the other. I'm just talking people.
Mhm.
That it's a lot easier. People find offense way easier, and rather than say anything, they'll just shut up and they won't say anything. And is it? Are we more worried that we'll offend each other, and then just don't talk? You know.
Wonder.
Could be.
You know, I kind of see a bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's like, oh, if I don't have something in common with, said person, I just won't say anything because, oh my gosh, like let's just take the university, if you will. It literally gets to the point where sometimes with various things that the human resources come and says to you, you're like, okay, I just won't talk to anybody. It's just easier.
Mm-hmm.
Outside unless I have to. I don't know. It makes it hard to here. This makes it hard to build community.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't have community if people aren't willing to talk to each other. And sometimes, and I think this is really true at the university level. We've almost made it like offending someone is just as bad as physically assaulting them. And they are different things.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't confuse the two, but I think we almost have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just generalizing here. Observations of a older dude, that's been around a minute, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So all right. So let's go back to the community thing. Or let's go back to the whole 50-50 split in the leadership positions and TAs and that type of thing. Sometimes it's like okay, it's that drive to get acceptance. That's what you've said. And maybe being part of community is more important to our female students than the guys.
I think honestly, like a sense of community is important to all people, right? Like we were kind of talking
It is.
earlier, is that like
Mm-hmm.
people who experience more human interaction,
Right.
like as humans, we need human interaction, and so a sense of community or having any community is good for that.
Well,
Like, it's
I'll be
beneficial
honest.
for
I used that exact effect that you're both talking about to get one of my soccer players into Connie.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally did. So I'm coaching, and it was for high school club level, right? Which is the only soccer we had in Madrid. So I was coaching the soccer team, and one of the seniors had to go to shadow a class at a college. It could be DMAC or Iowa State or anywhere. And since she had to go do this for her AP class, and she was going to go to architecture, right? And so she asked if she could come to my class. I'm like, sure, yeah, come to 241 and then stay for 352.
Mhm.
So you know what I did? I had her I told a couple of my better female students to sit next to her,
Mhm.
right? And before she left, she decided she wanted to go Connie.
Mhm.
And now she works, I believe she was at DPR. I don't know where. I'm not because like DPR bought her company. Anyway, I'm not sure if she's still there or not. But she graduated with Connie, and I totally used this. I was like, hey, go sit next to her. You should talk to her about her experience.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them were at one point had been TAs for me.
Mhm.
So they're like, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. And before she left the building, she was like, oh my God, I feel so connected.
Mhm.
Here's one of them was a junior, one of them was a senior, so you're a high school senior, and here these upperclassmen are just chatting your ear off during the class, and it totally worked. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to go Con E now,
Mhm.
you know?
I think you see that in Iowa State though too. Is like they make learning communities for engineering students.
Oh, we do a whole bunch better
Yeah,
job
yeah.
than we ever used to.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
they have
There was no learning community when I was a student.
yeah, but they have like
Yeah.
floors where you have common majors, or
Yeah.
they have like they're trying to develop a sense of community, because when you're in high school, more times than not, that is kind of predetermined for you.
Oh,
Your
yeah,
sense of
yeah, yeah,
community
yeah.
is high school, and it is your town. Whether you're in a big school or a small school, there's a sense of community is a little bit easier to find, and sometimes that can be really hard for people to find in college. And so
True.
I think Iowa State has taken that approach too. Like
Well, we should. We
Yeah.
should. And I mean, I think that's probably one of the most significant changes from when I was a student to today is that there was nothing like that.
Mhm.
You had to go find or create your own sense of community. I mean, that's being in that's why I was in the military. That's why I was on the boxing team. That's
Mhm.
why I was AGC vice president when I was here. And you're right. It's like I think we're healthier. Mentally healthier. I mean, you'll notice on my podcast, I've talked to the boxing team. I'm doing one on here coming up on one of the equestrian clubs. Not that they have anything to do with Con E, they have everything to do with community and mental health, and that we all should find something that connects us in place. And for some, maybe that's AGC or MCA or something, or it's one of the student orgs or one of the student sports or whatever it is. But I think it is necessary.
Mhm.
But I do think that's one of the better things that we've done is come up with a learning community,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah, I think that goes hand in hand with representation, because I know that we're also trying to do a better job of going to high schools and having that outreach. But I know that Anna and I both came in either undecided or not Connie.
Yeah.
And maybe if I had someone in my high school that was telling me about it, that was showing me that it was possible, maybe I would have joined Connie sooner, or if I would have known about it sooner, I would have had that as an option. But
Okay. Well, you know what? A lot of people say that, and this is something that, as Connie, we have always struggled with. This is that if somebody's just like, I want to be an engineer, what do? They're a mechanical engineer.
yeah,
I mean, I started as a mechanical engineer, right?
Mhm.
And then had to find it. I didn't even know about it until somebody directed me to it.
same.
Yeah, same. I know you're.
Same.
Yeah, same. Okay. Um, okay. So I mean, what I'm saying is we have always struggled, and I think part of the continued struggle to get more female students into our program is the perception that construction maybe just isn't for women.
Mm-hmm.
Like you both noticed at least those thoughts that other people said.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't until I went to the undecided engineering fair and I saw a woman at the construction engineering booth. Like,
Oh, do you remember who it was?
I do. It was Nicole.
Vargas.
Yeah.
Oh, Vargas. Okay, I was like, which Nicole? I know a couple.
But more specifically, there was
She was awesome.
there was a senior in my sorority who was construction engineering, and she's like
Oh.
actually the turning point. Do you
Oh.
remember Dana?
What- which
Dana
one?
Lusar.
Sorry. Oh yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so she's kind of like the final turning point, because I talked to her and she was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, it's totally capable. I started as a
Nah.
civil, which is kind of what I was thinking about doing. And then, I mean, that's a whole tangent, but
Yeah.
it helps to see people that are similar to you achieve things like that because
Yeah.
I can put myself in their shoes and I'm like,
Well, that's why I had my soccer player sit next to other female engineering students. So that she could she could see immediately. It's like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, that's cool. I can do that, right? Okay, all right. So there's one another thing. All right, so the feeling of perfection. Um, Last question on that: do you think that is more self-imposed among our female students than among our guys? In other words, are you more likely to self-impose the standard of perfection than your male counterparts? My observation is yes, but that doesn't mean I'm right.
I would say probably yes. 9 times out of
Probably, probably says the person that always gets the perfect score on my exams.
10. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say probably.
yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, is that a problem? Or is that just or is that just like, hey, that's the approach you got to take to a challenging engineering major, and everybody should think that way.
I think it can kind of go both ways. I mean, I think that there's definitely some part of it that is the approach to engineering. Like I know one of my friends studied software engineering, and he was very similar in a lot of our mindsets of like, he always tried to get a perfect score on all of his projects, his exams, his everything, and but that wasn't specific to construction or specific to women.
It's just him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think his was also very internal as well. Like,
Internal, yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of that perfectionism kind of came internally.
I had, and this has been several semesters ago. Pre-COVID, I had in Capstone, I had three female students all doing the mechanical part of Capstone. Right, all high performers, all like all of them TA'd for me. Okay, all right. So one of them literally told me, she's like, yeah, I was going to leave town, and then I saw her car still there, and that means she's working, and I can't go home and rest, so I got to go back and get a better project. Like the three of them. Oh my Lord.
Almost ran each other into the ground.
Almost ran each other into the ground. And then at the end of it, so we actually did a mechanical dinner. I remember this. We did a mechanical dinner, and we're talking about this, and one of them was like, this was way too much work, and so, and then I'm watching this, and I'm like, really? How much of this was self-imposed? How much of this wasn't my standard, but is because you thought you were in competition with her, and that you drove yourself into the ground, which made her drive herself into the ground, and the two of you both turned in solid A work. I mean, like I had very little to criticize on either one of them, But I'm like, you both went above and beyond anything I was expecting, and that's because you did it to each other, And then they were like, wait a minute, I didn't think about that, But I see that, I think I see that more in our female students.
A question for you though.
Question for me. All right, shoot.
How much of that internal competition do you think is kind of enforced in our major? How much of that is kind of driven
wholeheartedly
in 241?
Darn right it is.
Yeah.
Darn right it is, because I need, okay. That's a fair question, right? Because here's the thing, is that we have far more students looking to do the minimum than we have looking to exceed the maximum. And so remember what I said about I see our male students responding better to challenge. Okay, so I throw out challenges a lot. That is absolutely true. You're exactly right. I do challenge people, and I do say it's a competition because life is. The question is every person has to decide where that line is, between good enough and not good enough. And here's what I'm saying is women, it seems like, in my observation, tend to internalize that to be much higher.
Yeah.
A much higher standard. And once again, generalizing, and very frequently, a greater percentage of our male students setting that bar perhaps too low, right? But maybe the point is that we didn't get enough female students in there to have what we would call, a more reasonable average.
Yeah, I think if you're choosing to go into engineering, there isn't really a good enough. I mean, I know there is, but it's like if you're going into engineering, you are competitive
Mm-hmm.
to the core almost, like you have to be, because you have to strive for that perfection. And even though nothing's really perfect in the industry, I suppose it's like you're always looking for it because it's a difficult major. You can't really settle because it'll pile up, it'll snowball.
And exactly, you just proved my point.
Mhm.
You did. Because
Shoot.
we get a whole bunch of people in that do not think like you.
Yeah.
I deal with that particular, the other end of that extreme, where they don't see it as a competition and they're willing to do the minimum and get by. Okay.
Crazy.
True story. True story. You ready for a true story? All right. No names will be used. But I had a Connie 241 student at the end of the semester. His group comes in and it's finals week, and they're like, "Okay, Mr. Perkins, we got to talk to you about teammate number 4 here. Just did not do. They're like, I'm like, just went on and on about how they didn't even do the minimum. On and on. I'm like, hey, okay, thank you for telling me, but why are you telling me this finals week?
Mm-hmm.
Where was this discussion weeks ago so that I could have had the conversation with him and let him know that what he's doing isn't good enough? Because you've put that off until now, not given any feedback to him, and now it's too late to change. So here's the deal. I am not going to, I think I might change his grade tiny bit, but not like significantly. Like if they got a B, I probably gave him a B minus, at worst, maybe a C plus.
Mhm.
Right? But not much, because I said, this isn't fair. He doesn't have time to change. He doesn't have time to take this feedback and actually do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'll have a word with him, right? But I'm not going to change his grade much, for the final project. And they're like, okay, we know. We should have said something earlier. We thought it'd get better. All those constant, all the things that people say for group projects. I'm like, okay, so I call him in. I bring him in. I'm like, hey, here's the deal. Here's the feedback from your group. Here's the list of, these are some of the things where they feel like you are lacking on. And I said, I'm not telling you these things now, to explain to you why you're getting a lower grade, because you're not. But I'm telling you these things because if you do the same thing in the later classes, 352, 353, estimating, scheduling, and God forbid capstone, like this is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And I just want you to learn from this, because that's the important part.
Mm.
I think, yeah. Anyway, he, like, let's say, I think he only got like a C or something in 241, But anyway, point is, his response was fascinating to me. His response was, well, it did work for me. I mean, I passed the class. I'm like, okay,
Oh.
that's not the response I was looking for. Okay, the two of you you're like dying. You're like dying. You're about ready to jump out of your skin here. I'll let you go. Anna, do you have anything to say?
That's just a crazy response. If a professor ever told me that, like, what I had delivered on a project was
It's not good enough?
was not enough, I think, first of all, I'd probably cry. and then I would probably apologize.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, I think I would be a lot more sensitive to the amount of effort that I am putting into other projects and in future.
So what you're saying
classes.
is that you would have seen the point, been horrified that you were below the standard, and done something about it.
Yeah.
Right. Sophia, you looked like you had something to say to this one too.
I mean, I agree. I would probably lock myself into engineering and not leave. I mean, that's just kind of like lights a fire under you. It's like, oh, I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, no fire was lit by this conversation.
And there's two circumstances. Sometimes people just aren't aware that they're not performing well, but sometimes they are, and they need that wake up call. But either way, you would think that once they got it, it would spark a change.
Yes, a change did happen. Let me tell you about the change, and it was quick. So I was just like, I was like you, I was like, wow, I can't imagine hearing that and just being like, yeah, worked out good for me.
It's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah,
It's done.
perfect. Oh, well, I did the right. I did the minimum. I passed. There you are. I'm done. And I was like, I could tell this was going nowhere.
Mhm.
It's like, wow. Okay. Yeah. Good talk. And I was like, so I swear this is true. Like a week later, he emails me. Emails me and literally says, "This has been years. I should have had this email up
Mm.
because I kept it." And he's like, "Hey, Mr. Perkins, I was wondering if you could round my grade up, because I'm on academic probation, and if um I'm gonna be dropped from Iowa State if I don't. I have to get a 2 point, and if you could just round me up from a, let's call it a C to a C plus, that would be good enough that I wouldn't." And he literally said, I don't feel like one grade should stop my academic career, and that if you could just round me up, I'd appreciate it. Literally having that ask that question after telling me, oh yeah, what I did was good enough, and so at first I wrote an email and then erased it. It's like, no, I am not putting this, and I just wrote him back. I'm like, yeah, I just kept it very simple. I was like, yeah, I think we're going to leave the grade where it is, and I would encourage you to talk to your other instructors maybe about finding, but I don't see a lot of potential here for me to round you up.
I think the grade I gave you was good enough.
Yes, I think the grade that I gave
Sure.
you accurately reflected your level of effort in the class, and and I wish you luck with that. Never saw him again. He never came back to Connie. I mean, that is what I'm talking about. You say that like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody think this way? And I am telling you, no, they don't. And what I am saying is my personal observation is I think we have a higher rate of incidence of this in our female students than our male ones.
Could be.
Could be. Could be. Like I said, it's controversial to think that men and women are different.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably get canceled for this.
Probably.
This will probably be the
The last
last
office
podcast. I will not be allowed in the podcast office ever again.
Connie did not see.
Yeah.
that for-
Yeah. This is
It's like the other students.
the views expressed on this podcast are in no way shared by Iowa State University nor construction engineering.
At
However,
risk.
yeah, listen at your own risk. Listen at your own risk. All right. Well, there's one other thing that I want to talk about on here. On this here, I'm going to go back to the laptop view so that everybody can see this. There we go. All right. There it is. This is the one I actually asked a question on in the training. It says 16.4% of Iowa State University students have reported experiencing sexual violence in the past 12 months. Okay. Everybody hear that? 16%. Okay. All right. Here's why this is disturbing to me. Let's say, and I asked this question, of the whoever it was from Human Resources or maybe Student Health or whoever it was presenting this. I said, okay, 16% have experienced this in the last year. She's like, yes. Let's take that at its face number. Let's not talk about, well, are people over or under reporting or anything. Let's just say that 16% was true. And I said, let's pretend for a second that, once again, men and women have a slightly different experience in life. Let's pretend that the vast majority of those are our female students experiencing said sexual violence. She's like, well, they're not all. And I'm like, okay, but let's play the average. Are they mostly women or not? And she's like, yes. Okay. I said, if we are at 50-50, and apparently we're just slightly less, but we're real close to a 50-50 split, does that mean that almost a third of our female students have had this happen in the last year? And she's like, well, yeah, probably, yes, probably, it's probably what that does mean. I'm like, as a father of two little girls, I was like, this is disturbing. I was like, well, why are we not talking about this number and this problem? I mean, it's in the handout, right? It says annual handout on student-centered learning workshop. So, is this a different part of the experience here for our female students than our male students? Because if it is, it's pretty damn disturbing to me.
Hmm.
Yes. Both of you are saying yes.
I mean, just statistically looking at the numbers, it is regularly more female than male victims.
Well, true. It is regularly more female than male victims, but is the percentage that high? I mean, that's the part that's bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a fact of life that everybody knows but nobody talks about or discusses things about?
Likely.
It's probably higher than what I would have guessed, but I also don't know everything for sure.
Well, sure.
And
No, I know. No, and neither do I.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I obviously don't know crap from
Mhm.
my office in fourth floor of town. I had
Mm-hmm.
if it is, well, okay. And then so I see this number, and here several years ago we had an incident here in Ames where a member of a class I had just taught. She was a civil engineering major and a professional golfer, Sophia and she was in my class. She had literally just presented to me, maybe only a couple of weeks before. She was attacked on a golf course here in Ames and murdered. And you know what happened after that? I bet, maybe not all, but I bet half or most of the female students in Connie at one point or another came to my office to talk about things like, hey, should I get mace or a gun or a knife or a dog or what should I do? And for whatever reason, I was told I put out kind of a dad vibe on like how to answer questions on self-defense and guns and knives and dogs. Guilty. I mean, if we're to stereotype, I'm fine falling into that stereotype. Okay. But I had this conversation, and I had students. One of my TAs, she was like, "I can't sleep. Every little noise wakes me up at night." And she was like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Okay." So we talked about what she was comfortable with, and the answer for her was like mace and a dog, and because she was terribly like anxiety. I mean, like on edge, and she was not alone.
Mm-mm.
All right. So it made me think about that whole is dealing with violence a common thing? And if so, why don't we have more self-defense classes for our women students? Why don't we have more? Someone should be having the discussion of, okay, what brand of mace did you buy? Right. I hope both of you bought like one of the gel types.
I actually don't know what type mine is.
I definitely
Okay.
have mace, but I
All right.
am fortunate to say I've never had to use it. So.
Same.
Okay. All right. No, those are good things.
Have-
But
yeah.
at the very least, you should. Yeah. Apparently, you should have something.
Mhm.
And that was the thing I took away from it. I'm like, why we need a lot more education on this, or a lot more awareness, or something, because it's just disturbing.
Mhm.
How is someone supposed to perform in a challenging engineering environment if this is legitimate, like day in, day out concern? That was the thing that struck me. I'm like, maybe there's a source of anxiety among our female students that the guys don't have as much of.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it definitely exists, and like you see it in college campuses when you go to visit. Like I remember when I came to visit Iowa State, and like they were telling me about their Green Dot program, which is like
Green Dot, help me out here. What's Green Dot?
Uh,
That wasn't a thing when I was a student.
it's it references the fact that anytime there's like a sexual violence act, that like
Yeah.
a red dot is placed on a map to represent where that
Oh.
activity happened. And
Oh,
so a green dot is supposed to be like the opposite, like you're helping inform other people about the like the safe zones, and you're helping inform other people about like
where to go, where not to go?
where to go, where not to go, like kind
Okay.
of where the safe havens are, and where like on campus there's all those emergency phones, there's all those emergency lights.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean that's okay.
And like I think
okay.
that
I mean that helps.
yeah, I mean yeah, it doesn't do everything, but I think that
Yeah.
it exists enough that those things have to exist on college campuses now. Like that is the
Right.
norm. Like if a college campus doesn't have that, I think that college
That's a
campus
problem.
that is a problem. That would be out
Is
of the norm.
there? Did I hear? And I don't know if this is part of that program, but is there like, let's say that you're working late at
Mhm.
night and you're like, oh man, I got to walk all the way over to my apartment.
Mhm.
Is there like someone to? Is there like a number to get someone to walk with you or get you a ride?
Not walk with you, but there's a ride that will be provided. It's
I think I
called,
might know. There is Safe Ride,
yeah.
but I think I know what you're referencing about. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's still active, but I remember learning
This
about.
used to be a thing.
It was an app where you could, like, let's say I wanted to connect with Anna. I could say, hey, I'm walking home from class. Yeah. I definitely learned about this, and they could monitor your location and make sure you're making it home safely. And then I think there might have even been a third party in the app where it was authorities. So if Anna noticed I didn't make it home
Oh,
safely, she could alert them.
Yeah,
Yeah. I forget what it's called. I think I have
called
my phone.
Noonlight.
That's,
Or that's something similar to it.
yeah, my phone
Might
is
not be the
dead.
same.
I can't check.
But Noonlight is something that it's an app you can have, and you
Yeah.
you hold it down while the app is open. You just like touch your phone,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you release your thumb from the phone, it contacts the local authorities. So like if
Oh.
you were to get attacked and you like drop your phone or
Yeah.
whatever that like might be,
So it's like a safety switch,
basically, yeah.
right? Like you
But for your
you
smartphone.
you break connection and boom, it alerts.
Authorities are your location is shared.
That's an app. That's a
That's an app that exists. It's not Iowa State specific.
Oh, it's not Iowa State
There's an
specific.
Iowa State specific one that
Oh, is
I know
there?
what you're talking about. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
But it helps, like I said, friends connect with each other's location and watch you get home safe.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
within that app, there's again the third party where if you're not making it home safe, let's say Anna, it's about a 15-minute walk home from truck, so like if I don't make it home in 15 minutes, like see where I ended up. Maybe my phone got drug with me somewhere, and you need to
Yeah.
push that button on the app that contacts people. There's an app.
Okay.
It's in the, I think it might even be in the Safe, right? It's Iowa State Safe has a bunch of different things under that umbrella. If you open that app, there's quite a few options. One of them is Safe Ride, one of them is.
You know, the thought I was just having is that if there's a major that doesn't have that many women in it, then there's not that big of a community. Then there's a lot less chance of, having the friend there on the other end of the app that you're talking about alerting. Anyway, just thought I just had. I don't know if that
It's
Right.
in the Iowa State Safe app.
in the Iowa State Safe.
Did you find
app.
what it was called?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Right.
it's not.
It's just like
It's
a drop
within
down.
that app. It's like
Mhm.
it's called the Friend Walk and Virtual Walk Home. Both of these buttons in the Iowa State Safe app offer you a real-time virtual escort as you walk by sharing a map with your GPS location that can be monitored until you safely reach your destination. Share your location with a friend or family member using Friend Walk, or send it to ISU Police Dispatch with Virtual Walk Home.
Oh.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I would call that a good thing. But you know what? In all the 20 years I've been here, I have never heard of that.
The
And
only time I did hear about it was when I was like giving tours, and I had to tell people that, and I had to learn it as I was telling them.
Oh, you learned it as part of
Because I
giving
never
tours.
heard of it either. Yeah.
Okay, then all right. So this brings me to the question that I will ask next time I'm in one of these trainings: is why aren't these tools more widely
Advertised.
It kind of frustrates me a little bit because it's one of those things. Well, let's just not talk about it at all.
Hope it goes
Therefore,
away.
yeah. Well, yeah, which never happens.
Never.
Literally, I think we go back to my 241 talk to the class about teammates, and it's like a noisy old truck. If a noise happens, you just don't turn up the radio and hope it goes away because it never gets better. Well, once again, hoping a problem goes away is not going to make it better. I would think stuff like that would be way more proactive and helpful. I don't know. That's just kind of crazy to me. It's incredibly crazy to me that it's not promoted. Given that it appears everybody knows this is a problem.
Yeah.
Except me this last except for that one time when I had, like I said, after what happened there on the golf course, all of a sudden everybody's coming, and I was like unprepared. I was like, oh, okay, so you want to talk about how to defend yourself in a life and death fight? Okay, let's talk. I would be happy to do it, but it
I was a little unprepared for that.
Yeah, I was like, that's
Yeah.
not normally the course of discussion I have.
I talk about HVAC systems.
Yes, I like, let's talk HVAC systems. It's like, oh, okay. mace or guns or knives or dogs. Let's talk. We can talk those. I just don't normally.
Yeah.
Well, not during office hours. But all right. So what do you think? Is there anything that works for the two of you? I mean, what do you do to help? Is there things that make you feel better? Is there things that don't? Do you use the Safe app you're just telling me about, or you're like, oh, I saw it once, but I'd never use it?
I've never used the friend walk, but I did freshman year. I did use Safe Ride when I was trying
Safe
to
Ride? Yeah,
get from place to place on campus safely.
good.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea. Anna?
I've never used the Iowa State Safe app, but
Mm-hmm.
I had Noonlight installed for about my first, and like installed and actively used for like my first month on campus. I think overall, like I've felt pretty safe at Iowa State,
Okay.
and like haven't felt a huge need for that. But I don't know. I think I'm a little bit aware. Like I don't know. There's
A good sense of awareness and
Yeah.
situational awareness definitely helps.
yeah. Like I've definitely
Right.
called people on like nights where I haven't
Yes.
felt safe. Like I've called a friend,
Yeah.
called my mom, or
Good.
whatever
Good.
to be a little bit of source of comfort.
Well,
I mean, yeah, that's definitely what I would
Yeah.
use most too. If I was walking home alone, I'd be on the phone with my roommate, or
Mhm.
even if I wasn't on the phone with someone, sometimes I'd be pretending like, oh,
Vinny, you're on the phone with him?
oh, you're right behind me. That's great. So I mean, it works, if you're in
Yeah.
an unfamiliar space. But like you said, I
Yeah.
don't think I've really felt super unsafe at Iowa State specifically.
Mhm.
Um,
But I feel like I've definitely noticed it more like outside of Iowa State.
yeah.
Not necessarily the college campus, but like I've gone to
Well-
Chicago with some friends, or I've
Well,
gone to
okay, yeah,
New
I would
York with
probably
some
feel,
friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
good point.
it's like I don't know. It's a lot more heightened.
Oh,
there,
yeah.
at least
Well,
for-
it is. Well, it should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It should be. But I guess what I would say is apparently you got to be diligent elsewhere, everywhere,
I think
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
even on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Don't run at night with headphones in.
Right.
Unfortunately, you have to
Yeah.
keep that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
That's
what
true.
that was one of the other things I would say is that like I never walk with two headphones in. Never. I will
That's
only
probably a good point.
I will only ever have one in, even if I will only
Even if you got some really good tunes going.
only if I've got the best tunes. Even
Yeah.
Okay,
even
even the best.
I will only have two headphones in if I am inside and I'm sitting down and I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
But it's
Right.
I don't know, for me it's a little bit of that like safety thing is that I like to be able to hear what's happening around me. I like to
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's not true for everyone. Most people on college campuses will wear two headphones and it'll be fine. But
True.
I mean, some people will wear headphones and then get hit by a car.
that's also true.
Oh my gosh, I almost saw a student talking on their phone almost get hit by a piece of steel as they were lifting off of a truck. Like oh my goodness, it was so close.
Mm-hmm.
Just like going on.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
okay,
scary.
so I mean, yes, in general, everyone needs to have a bit of situational awareness, but apparently it's quite pronounced
Mm-hmm.
amongst our female students
Mm-hmm.
that need it. All right. Well, I don't know if Green Dot or solves anything or that app, but they're good moves.
Mm-hmm.
They're good
Two
moves.
steps in the right direction.
Yeah.
All right. And maybe this is something that we do. I don't know. How do we in Connie? All right, and here we'll kind of we could probably wrap up on this. How do we in Connie create an environment, since two of you are obviously doing the major and doing it well? You're getting you're to that point where you can see the end. I mean, you got a ways to go, right? You got a lot of work. Anna's going to have an easier time of it since Sophia's taken that structure,
True.
reinforced
True.
concrete stuff,
Okay.
right? But if what advice would you give to not cut down on the number of guys, but get more female students into the program? What would you say if you could say anything to our department, right? Which they'll. I don't know if they'll watch this or not.
Right.
Definitely.
But what would you say to them if it's like, okay, these are real concrete steps that could be done?
I think that the amount of recruiting that has happened in like the last couple of years has definitely increased from what it has in the past. But I think that recruitment needs to come from like there needs to be more connection that happens within the recruitment. I think that we see this in really anything. I'm the recruitment chair for the Ultimate Frisbee team.
Okay.
And yeah, and
Yeah, ultimate frisbee.
yep. But like we see a much higher retention in people that are brought by someone who's already on the team when there's
Ah,
already a
get
connection
that
and a
personal
relationship
connection.
formed. Yeah. And so
Exhibit.
you can exactly.
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A is sitting right next to me.
All right.
But you can recruit all you want and you can beg and plead and give people all the information that you want, but
Right.
until there's
Connection.
some type of connection, and sometimes that connection happens on the first day of practice in terms of frisbee, so it can happen on the first class of the major and the first
Mm-hmm.
group assignment or whatever, but it's got to come internally. Like what Sophia said, how she was brought into construction, I'm a little bit similar, and like I was told about construction engineering by one of my frisbee teammates, and she was doing the major and was loving the major, and so she told me about
Mhm.
it. But knowing that someone that I knew and someone that I really enjoyed spending time with was in the major made it a little bit easier for me to go into the major myself.
You know what? One of the things you're saying is like when I invited my soccer player to my class.
Exactly.
We need a whole lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot more personal interaction, a lot
Exactly.
less emails.
Exactly.
That's 100% true because if Dana told me to go to a class, I'd be, I need to stick it out for Dana. Like I owe this to her.
Mhm.
Even if I wanted to do it myself, I'm less inclined to do it just on my own free will sometimes, as if it's like, I appreciate her setting this up for me. Let me pay it back for her by following through with it. And on the same note as making connections, I'm a lot less likely to go to a seminar or go to a class for construction engineering if I find out about it from some big panel and I'm sitting in the back. But if someone from the panel came to me and said, "Hey, I know
Have you
that
heard
you're
about
interested.
construction?
Follow me on LinkedIn or let's chat about it specifically," and then you have that connection and it's, I know somebody now and I like this person and I like connecting with this person. So I want to follow in their footsteps. I want to do what they're doing because they're successful and they
Mhm.
acknowledge that I want to be successful versus this is a lecture and you guys can do it if you want, but we don't care about you individually. So, like I said, that
Oh, that sounds like my engineering 101 class when I was a student.
right.
Yeah, we don't
I
care
mean,
about you individually. We just whatever.
Mhm.
yeah, and that effort is you see that effort through the learning communities and through the TAs and through the peer mentors, but just kind of making it more purposeful and meaningful. And when we go to these high school visits that they're starting to implement, maybe
Mhm.
again making it more personal and talking to students individually, making connections and
Smaller
similar.
groups instead
Yeah.
of big lecture halls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
if a group of if my senior class of my sorority would have told me to do it
Mhm.
just because they've heard good things about it, I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. But since that one person told me that she liked it and she saw these qualities in me that she had going into construction engineering, that's why I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to
Mhm.
do those things that she's doing. So
Okay. All right.
just
I would I would definitely agree because so we own a small family business, right?
Mhm.
Here at the edge of town, and we do weddings and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Big picture advertising doesn't work.
not really.
Mhm.
Nah, not at all. Emails and flyers and being in, this
Word of mouth.
magazine or that. Word of mouth is the only thing that works. In other words, Anna told you that she got married there, which she didn't. But
Not
she's
yet.
not married.
No.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if she told you that she had a good experience there, then you'd be like, hey, I need to check this out.
Yeah.
But if you saw an advertisement for it, if you even listened to it, because most advertising doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
It
There's
doesn't.
so much advertisement.
You're so bombarded with it all the time that in just to keep saying, you just tune it out. So I mean, I agree with it. The challenge to what both you just said is that is time intensive.
Yep.
Mhm.
How do you
100%.
get the time? How do you get the people to go do it? How do you make all these connections? I don't have good answers for it.
So is it worth it?
Is it worth
If
it?
it is, then
It's like, yeah, what's the work versus reward? And I guess I would say what we probably need more of is for all of you, I mean you students,
Mhm.
to go and make those connections back to your former high schools
definitely.
yourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe that would, and I know we do that to some extent,
Mhm.
but and I think it works. It's just
Mhm.
it needs to be done on a whole lot
a larger scale.
larger scale, perhaps.
And I think that that's where you start is where we're currently at is like
Yeah.
the big lecture halls or whatever, the faculty going to present or even the students going to present, and within a big lecture hall.
You know, one thing that I don't think helps recruiting is when someone my age goes and does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anna's like, yeah, you are old.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, you did. You totally said it. Your face said
You
it.
told me that before we walked in, actually.
No.
Oh, I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
But it's
Yeah.
not that exactly. But
No, I know what it is. You're saying it matters. You know, the connection, people see emulating you a lot easier than they do me.
Mhm.
And I can talk about, oh, when I was a student and, oh, look at all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, but you're like, yeah, I'm only a couple years older than you.
Mhm.
And they're like, ooh, maybe this is.
this is like feasible.
This is feasible.
Mhm.
And in all honesty, and this is why I really, really like having students, undergraduate students, as TAs. I think this in my classes, you know, you've noticed,
Mhm.
I always use undergraduate students as TAs because they just did it, you know, maybe just a semester or two before,
Mhm.
and they have a lot better understanding of it, what it takes, how much work it is, what's good and what's not good, you know,
Mhm.
with regards to that. So
Mhm.
so I guess yeah, it's replicating that, but on a large scale to get more people into Connie.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
How about getting more female students into Connie specifically, or is it the same answer? Maybe it's the same answer.
I think
Maybe
it's the same answer.
It's
maybe
a
it's the same answer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a similar answer. The only further note I would make is having these meet and greets represent male and female students. Don't send a bunch of guys to go talk to guys and girls about joining construction engineering. Make sure that
Yeah.
there's a girl there too, and maybe talk about her specific experience and that she can do it regardless of her gender.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, all right. No, I see that. Once again, it's the whole, ooh, there's someone that I can emulate.
Yeah,
Right? Okay.
because I think
Right,
that
that's fair.
you're able to see yourself in those person's shoes
Yeah.
way easier if you have some similarity. So whether it was the same high school or the same gender or
Mhm.
a similar hobby outside of whatever this major is or whatever other thing you're trying to talk about, some other type of similarity helps you like imagine yourself in their shoes a little bit easier.
All right. Is there anything that we could do to help with retention? I don't think retention is as big of an issue as it is just getting female students in the door.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, usually retention seems to be just, you know, pretty good. I mean, I
From
don't
what I've
see a whole
seen.
lot of female students quitting once they start.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't meet them either until 241, and by that point, you're pretty committed.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's the
But
thing.
is there anything to do to help with retention, or maybe retention isn't the problem? It's recruiting that's really the problem.
I think recruiting is definitely a bigger problem,
Okay.
but
I don't.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know that retention is necessarily gender specific either. I
Yeah.
think that if you're
Well,
leaving engineering,
I think if you're in the program, it's pretty obvious that you can get to be president of AGC or MCA or
Yeah.
something. I mean, it should be pretty obvious.
Mhm.
yeah,
You know, we usually do a pretty good job of that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're in. Yay. You know, now
Perfect.
there's lots of opportunity for you.
Yeah.
How much work do you want to do?
right, and that's just it. It's you get out what you put in. So
mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Well, no, I think really, really good discussion there. You know, I hope people take it seriously. Maybe
Mhm.
listen about. Maybe it starts some more discussions.
Mhm.
You're right,
Would be good.
because you know, real problems aren't ever solved with one talk. But you got to start somewhere,
Mhm.
right? And maybe this hasn't been talked about enough. Have the two of you ever had a discussion like this before with anybody from the university?
not
Or
this
even your
thorough. No, definitely not.
Okay,
A little bit.
a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right, well, that's
been brought
good.
up before.
Mm-hmm.
What's
It's-
that?
It's definitely been brought up before, but I haven't had a sit down like this. Of course.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a little bit more. You know, it's easier in this forum. You know, we can just talk as long as we want, almost. You know, but we do have other things to do,
Okay.
right? Right. All right. Any last thoughts? Any thoughts on anything that you wanted to say that didn't get a chance to say before we kind of wind it down?
I don't think for me at least.
No.
I don't think so.
Right.
Without opening up a whole new can of worms now.
Without opening a whole new can of worms. Well, what I want to know is, Anna, did you really call me old outside?
I really did not.
Okay. All right.
Not-
I really did not.
Maybe not this time.
Maybe not this time.
Maybe I'm
Oh.
No.
Maybe that was me.
I believe it.
Sophia's such a building emphasis.
Yeah.
She is.
Such a building
Ouch.
emphasis thing to say.
Oh,
Yikes.
that is.
We're
That is.
fighting after
Oh my gosh. Now we're stereotyping. aren't we?
All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I won't take the slander from my
I won't take this slender anymore.
You said you were in the boxing club?
Yeah. Yeah, I was.
Still have access.
I still have access. I did a couple
Need to
rounds.
go.
The two of you. Couple of you you're gonna switch from frisbee to boxing here. I know the coach. She's coming in for a podcast tomorrow. Right? Podcast
Ooh,
tomorrow. I
I don't
could
want a
get this
broken
done.
leg.
Yeah.
I would like my nose to stay as it is.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, if that's the case, if there's nothing else to be added to this great discussion, and I thank both of you for having it with me, having the courage to actually talk about difficult things. We're in a weird time when none of people are actually having real conversations. So maybe that's why I like this podcast, right? You can actually get people and have a good conversation. You're not in a hurry.
Mhm.
All right. With that in mind, we are going to wrap things up here on the Office Hours podcast with Professor Brad Perkins. Thank you for joining.